Nice. Hake is live. It is Monday already. A beautiful Monday. Everybody loves Mondays. July 6th, 2020. If you don't love Mondays, you don't love anybody. Just after a couple of minutes after 9 a.m. here in Los Angeles. Welcome, everybody. What's up to D Live and YouTube and, well, Restream, of course. Periscope, Facebook, Mixer, Twitch. Very nice. Twitch should be live. You know, they tend to be slow in saying that I'm online. Hopefully it will go on. Appreciate you guys joining on all 6 different platforms. And I'm also, I don't know if I'm streaming. I recently changed to 2 hours, just the beginning of White History Month, which started just last Wednesday, the 1st of the month. Wake up. And I failed to let the primary black engineer know, hey, I got to make sure that I'm on TalkStream Live both hours. Because right now it just automatically streams me for 1 hour and then cuts off. Oh, that's not good. So hopefully I will be on 2 hours. Shout out to WAN90 for loving Mondays. Very nice. Thank you to Asmodor and Jesse Lee Peterson and the rest of you guys for hosting my show. That's cool. I appreciate that. And High Impact Fix says, what's up, my friends? So, I have quite a show for you. Some of you guys are already calling in, 888-775-3773. I will get to your calls, but I have a white history hero to present to you. And I'm wearing a Calvin and Hobbes t-shirt. But it is the 6th. We just got done with the 4th of July, and the president made a couple of excellent speeches. So I'm going to be talking about that, about one of the men that he honored as a White History Month hero, the great Andrew Jackson, and some other things. You know, the poor victimhood blacks and poor victimhood Indians are getting a disservice given to them by constantly focusing on false victimhood of the yesterday stuff, when in reality they're victims of their own hatred today. But anyways, let's get on with the show.
1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
Hey guys!
Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la. Oh, it's the Hake Report, the Hake Report, la la la.
So, what's up, guys? Hang tight, callers. I'm going to be getting to you. I will. I appreciate it. But first, I want to present to you a real American hero. And no, I'm not referring to G.I. Joe. It's so disgraceful. Hollywood made a G.I. Joe movie, right? And they changed it to an international hero because they're globalists. They're anti-American. They hate America. Anyways, shout out to Philosopher with the diamonds and the subscription gifts to High Impact Fix. Right on. And thank you for the diamond. And High Impact Fix says, thank you, Philosopher, for the subscription. Right on. And thank you for hosting the show, High Impact. Oh, Flicks. Hold on. High Impact Flicks. I can't read. Like Jesse Lee Peterson said, I'm black on the inside. Shameful. Anyways, Andrew Jackson is a real American hero, I think. I haven't really known much about him. I didn't really pay attention in school, so I don't even remember whether we covered him when I was in elementary school or even U.S. history. In U.S. history, I don't remember really covering Andrew Jackson in high school or any of those places. Well, I might well have. I had decent teachers. They were boomers and older than boomers in some cases. And most of those teachers were much more decent than the millennial teachers or Zoomer teachers today. You heard on the Jesse Lee Peterson show, one evil female teacher is teaching her student children how to be anti-racist, which is to be anti-white, anti-America, because racism doesn't exist. It's just a smear on whites in America. So this is from history.com editors. By the way, President Trump gave a couple of great speeches on Friday and Saturday. Friday was July 3rd. It was Independence Day observed by America because the actual independence date fell on Saturday. And he also spoke on Saturday at the White House. On the Friday, he was at the beautiful place called Mount Rushmore, speaking in front of the Mount Rushmore, where they have the sculptures of the excellent American heroes, 4 American heroes, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt and somebody else. I'm blanking on the name. Help me, Asmodor, or somebody in the chat. What a disgrace. But anyways, those are all honorable men. And I loved how President Trump called it sacred, because it is sacred. We should be honoring honorable men. I mentioned Abe. There's a guy, I mentioned Teddy Roosevelt. There's a guy, was it John Adams? Thomas Jefferson. Okay, thank you. Yeah, very good guy. I think he's the one who, isn't he the one who wrote the Declaration of Independence? I don't know. George Washington, I did mention him. Anyways, he called it sacred, and that's kind of a in-your-face, in my opinion, an in-your-face to the fake American Indians. I call them fake because they're fakers. They don't have any love for their fellow American Indians. If they did, they wouldn't be pushing, oh, you're on sacred land. You know, this is stolen land. No, they would be honoring America, who, for the most part, tried to be just towards the people that they conquered, or whatever you want to call it, right? We got the land from them. In some cases by purchases, by treaties, by war, by whatever. Anyways, here's a man who is responsible for us even having Florida and much of the West and whatever. Trump called him the great Andrew Jackson. History.com editors write that he was born in poverty. Andrew Jackson. His lifespan was 1767 to 1845, had become a wealthy Tennessee lawyer and rising young politician by 1812. Wow, when war broke out between the United States and Britain. And I wonder what poverty meant for people in those days, as opposed to the so-called poverty of today, in which people have cable TV, satellite TV, internet, cell phones, Jordans. By Jordans, I'm referring to those high-top shoes that blacks kill each other over. War broke out between the United States and Britain again in 1812, the War of 1812. Andrew Jackson's leadership in that conflict earned Jackson national fame as a military hero, and he would become America's most influential and polarizing political figure during the 1820s and 1830s, after narrowly losing to John Quincy Adams, who, by the way, defended him at one point. In the contentious 1824 presidential election, Jackson returned 4 years later to win redemption, soundly defeating Adams and becoming the nation's 7th president. Wow, John Quincy Adams, one-term president, I guess. As America's political party system developed, Jackson became the leader of the new Democratic Party, which today is the Democrat Party, much worse than in his day. The Democrat Party today is a disgrace to the Democrat Party of yore, I would say. As America's, oh no, I said that. A supporter of states' rights and slavery's extension in the new Western territories, he opposed the Whig Party, WHIG, and Congress on polarizing issues such as the Bank of the United States. Though Andrew Jackson's face is on the $20 bill, though. For some reason, his legacy is tarnished by his role in the forced relocation of so-called Native American tribes living east of the Mississippi. No, I reject that. Andrew Jackson was born March 15th, 1767, in the Waxhaws region on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. They fight over whether he was born in North or South Carolina. He said, according to this outlet, history.com, that he was born in South Carolina, or that he was from there anyway. The son of Irish immigrants. Wow. Jackson received little formal schooling, I should say. So right on. Self-taught, became a lawyer and a politician and a general. The British invaded the Carolinas in 1780 to 1781. And that's just when he would have been like 13, 14 years old. Jackson's mother and two brothers died during that conflict when the Brits invaded, leaving him with a lifelong hostility toward Great Britain. Wow, I did not know that. Here is him at 13. Joel is showing you guys a drawing of young Andrew Jackson. That's the boy with his arm raised and his fist clenched against a British soldier who's raising his sword against the young man. Because this young man, Andrew Jackson, did not want to polish the dumb British soldier's boots. So that's a drawing from that time. So goes the story, right? A tough young man. He wouldn't stand for a bully, right? There's focus on bullies today. It's so ridiculous. It's really anti-male. It's anti-strength. It's pro-victimhood. It's enabling victimhood, this push against bullies. I mean, 10 years ago, I remember there being this big campaign against bullying. It's crazy. And I am going to get to your super chats and calls. But here is Andrew Jackson's rise in the military. He read law as a teenager. He became a prosecutor in Tennessee, which before it was even Tennessee, actually. Set up a private practice, married the daughter of a colonel. Dang. And built a mansion near Nashville, bought slaves. Dang. Became Tennessee's first elected congressman, then a senator, then a judge. There is his wife in a little bit older years. He beat out the British. Oh, no, hold up. He headed the state militia of Tennessee, I think, at the time of the War of 1812 when he was a major general. It might have been Tennessee or it might have been Florida. I forget. But he beat out the British in the Battle of New Orleans, January 1815. Did they call it New Orleans back then? I don't know. He became a national war hero, way better than John McCain, by the way. A real winner, an actual winner, not a loser. He invaded Florida in 1817, which was controversial because the Spanish were holding it and they didn't like that. And some in America wanted to censure him for that action, but the Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, with whom he fought over the presidency later, defended the general's action. Isn't that nice? And he helped speed the American acquisition of Florida in 1821. Dang. That is a consequential man, right? Here's his presidency. Jackson and his wife were accused of adultery on the basis that Rachel, that woman, whom Joel showed you, had not been legally divorced from her first husband when she married Andrew Jackson. Dang, typical Democrats, right? I mean, nowadays, Republicans are that way too. You know, the culture has declined, so divorce and remarriage is so common, even though it's wrong. She was supposedly shy and pious, though. She died shortly after he won the presidency. He blamed them for their attacks on him and his family, because it was really contentious back then. It's crazy. He was nicknamed Old Hickory. Old Hickory. And hickory is like one of the hardest woods that you can buy or own or see. Hickory wood. I think hickory might even be harder than oak. I worked in the cabinetry business, so I happen to know this stuff. At least I think of hickory as being very hard wood. So he was nicknamed Old Hickory. That's cool. Oh, what a name. And was the first frontier president of the United States. They called him the frontier president. Andrew Jackson and his supporters opposed the Bank of the United States, central banks, right? Seeing it as privileged institution and the enemy of the common people. And very interesting, too, because if you look at today, look at what MasterCard did, for example, to New Project 2, which is a free speech platform. It's created by this young man named Dick Masterson, who started this as an alternative for Patreon. And he's on Patreon still. So he hasn't been censored, but he's doing this on behalf of other people who've been censored and kicked off of Patreon, because Patreon has this bias against conservatives or independent-minded people. And so he started New Project 2. Jesse Lee Peterson was on newproject2.com/Jesse Lee Peterson. But what happened? It got shut down because MasterCard, speaking of like this central bank-esque stuff, decided that, or caught wind that he was on this list called the match list. And people on the match list are like money launderers and all kinds of madness, or they just violate the rules or something weird like that. And so there's no explanation why he was kicked off of it. And so now he cannot process all this money that's coming in. People want to donate to these creators, including Soph, including Dick Masterson, including Ethan Ralph, the Ralph Retort, including Jesse Lee Peterson. The common men, these are all common men, and a young lady, Soph. And Andrew Jackson was not for the Bank of the United States, right? I guess that was the equivalent of the central bank. A privileged institution and the enemy of the common people. And that is what these people are today. The enemy of the common people. There's banks today that are, there's this thing called Operation Choke Point, right? To defund the Second Amendment, right? Not but just defund it, but prevent individuals with their own money from buying and selling arms, meaning guns, which we have a right to, right? But they are just evil, sleazy people. And we need to change the culture, right? By changing ourselves, setting an example, waking people up. He was also for states' rights. Very nice. States do need their rights. The federal government should not be so oppressive. States' rights. Although he was both for, but he was also for the rule of law. Here's this. In 1832, South Carolina adopted a resolution declaring certain federal tariffs null and void. Tariffs are when people are shipping in from other countries goods. We charge a tariff on that so that people have to pay a little extra to get the foreign stuff, and it helps us with our stuff that we're selling within the country. And it helps us bring in money. It's actually, tariffs are actually more constitutional than most of the taxes that we pay, honestly. They changed the Constitution with stupid amendments, which were really unconstitutional amendments, I heard. But anyways, while urging Congress to lower the high tariffs, Andrew Jackson, President Andrew Jackson, I think, sought and obtained authority to order federal armed forces to South Carolina to enforce federal laws, because tariffs are constitutional, let's admit it. Violence seemed imminent, but South Carolina backed down. That's strong leadership from Jackson, huh? And he earned credit for preserving the Union in its greatest moment of crisis to that date. Nice, huh? Law and order. Even though he was also working on behalf of South Carolina, saying, hey, lower these tariffs. That's too high. According to the story, right? Jackson survived an assassination attempt. I do have a drawing of this. I don't know if you'll be able to find it. I gave Joel so many pics. But if you just scroll through, you'll see a point where this guy is pointing a gun at him, I think. And he beat this guy with this would-be assassin, Richard Lawrence, with his walking cane. And he was an old guy at this point, 1835, January 30th. An assassination attempt. Nice work, Joel. And so this guy he beat that guy with his cane. Maybe the young people were holding him down, the assassin down. I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's cool. Right on for surviving that one. He died in his home, the Hermitage, which is the mansion that he built, I think, of congestive heart failure, June 8th, 1945. So what? 1845, I mean. 1767 to 1845, 78 years old. And there is a photograph of him at just about that age, 78 years old, I think. Yeah, there it is. Crazy, huh? Nice hair, great hair. Andrew Jackson. Here's a little bit of information. You might have heard of the Trail of Tears. When I was a young Christian boy, my parents would take me to the Indian Village. They would drop me off at Indian Village while they went to the Christian family camp. And Indian Village was a Christian aspect for the younger people, elementary school age, right? And we got an Apache tear to wear around our as a necklace. It's cool. Indian Village. They renamed it probably for political correctness. Weak Christians, huh? Anyways, Andrew Jackson took no action after Georgia, the state of Georgia, claimed millions of acres of land that had been guaranteed to the Cherokee Indians under federal law. Isn't that interesting? Federal law was protecting the Cherokee Indians. The whites throughout history have tried to do right by the people that they took over. Isn't that interesting? They tried to do right by them. But he declined to enforce a U.S. Supreme Court ruling that Georgia had no authority over American Indian tribal lands. Tribal lands. In 1835, the Cherokees signed a treaty giving up their land in exchange for territory west of Arkansas, where in 1838, some 15,000 would head on foot along the so-called Trail of Tears. The relocation, supposedly, it resulted in the deaths of thousands. I don't know how you blame Jackson for that. I don't know the whole story. I don't really care, because injustice and people get, can I say this word? People get the short end of the stick in deals all the time. All the time. And it just happens throughout history. And who knows whether it was just or unjust? Who knows? I'm not going to pretend to cry for the Indians who had to go on the Trail of Tears, because I don't know the story. And I'm not going to smear Jackson over that. By the way, anyone who pushes this victimhood stuff on behalf of the Indians, American Indians, ungratefulness and complaints, even if they're American Indians themselves, they are enemies of the American Indians, because it's a total change of the subject of what's really wrong with and hurting the American Indians today. They have youth suicide through the roof. They have dependency on, I guess they get redistribution of wealth some way. Greed, lack of initiative, hating whites. Stronger people are always taking over weaker ones. It happens throughout history. And the whites have tried to do it in the most civilized way that they can throughout American history. And they're blamed for not doing it perfectly enough. It's so female. Females, like female-minded, oh, don't be so mean, to like men making deals and fighting with fellow men. It's so crazy. They're trying to rehash over history and put a caricature on history that they don't actually know what they're talking about. Because these same people, by the way, when whites would do wrong in these times against the Indians, many times those whites would be punished by other fellow whites. Even in that, there's this conquistador who is I think he was the first governor of New Mexico. And his statue, they were trying to take down his statue. There was a shooting by a militia member in self-defense, I think. When there was a fight broke out, he was a little rough with a woman. He threw a woman down who was trying to block his path. And they were protecting this conquistador. This was recently, in the past few weeks. And this conquistador supposedly slaughtered a bunch of Indians from that area, right? American Indians from that area. And it was in response, in retaliation to them killing a bunch of his people, including his nephew or somebody. And he killed a bunch of them. And then the survivors, he cut off the men over 25. They're like 1 foot from each of them. Crazy, huh? And that was considered too vicious by Spain, and so they punished him. Isn't that interesting? You went too far with the other people. Self-policing, even by the Spanish whites. Just an interesting side note. So these people who tell you these stories of Native American victimhood, quote unquote, they call them Native Americans. We're Native Americans. We're born here, and this is America. We're the natives. They say nothing when the true Native Americans, us, we the native-born citizens of this country, are treated unjustly. Those people who push the false Indian victimhood say nothing about the real, actual, present-day injustice against America, against white people, against anybody. The guy got stabbed before the shooting. I did not know that. I know that they tried to attack him. Every Indian in America was being conquered for the land, and not just by Americans, but by Europeans, and also by fellow Indians. It's crazy. Here's some more legacy about Andrew Jackson, and then I will get to your calls. Appreciate you guys hanging tight. 888-775-3773. This is from Wikipedia. Andrew Jackson, has appeared on U.S. banknotes. That is to say money, I think, as far back as 1869 and extending into the 21st century today. His image has appeared on the $5 bill, the $10 bill, $20 bill, and the $10,000 note. Interesting, huh? Most recently, his image has appeared on the U.S. $20 Federal Reserve note. Joel showed you a picture of that, the $20 bill, beginning in 1928. Wow. In 2016, Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, that's an Obama guy, announced his goal that by 2020, an image of Harriet Tubman, she was a black female who ran the Underground Railroad, helped slaves get away, would replace Jackson's depiction on the front of the $20 bill, and that an image of Jackson would be placed on the back, the reverse side. The final decision will be made by his successors. I hope that never happens. Jackson did like way more for America. It's just reality, man. Numerous counties and cities are named after Andrew Jackson, including Jacksonville, Florida, and Jacksonville, North Carolina. The cities of Jackson in Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee. Jackson County in Florida, Illinois, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Ohio, Oregon. And Jackson Parish in Louisiana. Memorials to Andrew Jackson include a set of 4 identical equestrian statues, that's him with a horse, by the sculptor Clark Mills in Lafayette Square, Washington, D.C., Jackson Square, New Orleans, Nashville on the grounds of the Tennessee State Capitol, in Jacksonville, Florida. And rightly so, because he was influential in all of those places. Well, the capital, I don't know if D.C. was the capital by the time that he was in there, I don't know. Other equestrian statues of Jackson have been erected elsewhere, as in the state Capitol grounds in Raleigh, North Carolina, calling him one of the presidents of North Carolina that North Carolina gave the nation. Because he was born like right on the border. Like it's very unclear exactly where he was born. There's a bust of Andrew Jackson in Pensacola, Florida, where he became the first governor of Florida Territory, 1821. There's a 1928 bronze sculpture of Andrew Jackson in Bell Kinney Schultz, and Leopold Schultz were the ones who, I guess, sculpted it in the U.S. Capitol building as part of the National Statuary Hall collection. The great Charlton Heston, who was a classic actor. He played Moses in the Ten Commandments, I think, and I think he played in Ben-Hur, a 4-hour epic movie of way back then. He played Andrew Jackson twice. Dang, what an honor for both of those men. Andrew Jackson is portrayed in Walt Disney's 1955 Davy Crockett TV miniseries, back when Disney wasn't so disgraceful. You can take off the $20 bill now. Is Joel awake? And many other movies. Right on, Andrew Jackson. That is my White History Month hero of the day. Isn't that beautiful? It's nice to read a little bit of history because I didn't pay attention. I'm like, history? What's more important is right now. I was too logical as a kid, I guess. J. Russ, 89, gave a diamond and said, N. And he said, don't believe man, trust God, and have faith. And he gave a diamond and another diamond. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Before I get to Ryan in Concord, California, let me read a few super chats on YouTube. Jib Jab says, wait for it. He said it right before I came on. Adam Clark says, yee yee. History with Hake. Isn't that nice? Thumbs up. Jib Jab says, what is your definition of defunding the police? Does that mean allocating and restaffing members of the police or abolishing it altogether? Thoughts? You know, it's like what I told you about the smears upon our great men of history, and they were men. It's so like female minded. And by that I mean like the false version of female where they're just feeling sorry for the poor blacks that get manhandled by the cops. In most cases, rightfully so. And the worse the criminals get, including the blacks, including the Hispanics, including the whites, including even the Asians, the more perfect the cops have to be. Otherwise, it's going to look real bad. Because these guys are so out of control. Did you see that Atlanta situation where the guy, he was getting a DUI, he was asleep in the Wendy's, and he was, perfectly well behaved, I guess, for a drunk. I don't know what he was. And suddenly he resists arrest, fights off 2 cops, steals a taser, turns his back as he's running away and shoots the taser at the cop who's just a few feet away. And the cop shoots him in the back, and then the cop is in trouble for it. And the idiots over there are acting like it's the cop's fault. Like, how perfect do you have to be in the heat of the moment situation after that, all that madness? It's crazy. It's crazy. So yes, there is a female-minded attack on the cops. Bully the well-behaved people who may go out of line sometimes. Cops do go out of line sometimes. But most of the time, they don't catch such instances. They just catch instances between a white cop and a black suspect. And just, meanwhile, let the criminals run wild. And that's what's happening. The violent crime is increasing around the country. I'm going to deal with that maybe in the second hour. I am 2 hours today, guys. Monday through Friday. Not on Sunday, but I do 1 hour on Sunday so far. So that's my, they want unarmed social workers to go to disputes between neighbors, which can get real hot, real fast sometimes. The neighbors definitely have the right to the Second Amendment. Why don't the responders? They should be armed too. That kind of helps keep people in line sometimes. More crimes are stopped with guns, I would say without even firing a shot, than are committed with guns. Did you know that? That's what I heard. I've heard that stat numerous times, sometimes on Sean Hannity. And he wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. Thank you to Hot Computer Smell for the diamonds and saying, thanks for hosting me Friday. Beautiful drawing of Jesse Lee Peterson. Thanks to Dark Side of the Bear What for hosting the Hake Report. Let me get to some calls. Ryan out of Concord, California. Ryan, how are you?
Good. How's it going, James?
Going well. Speaking of like my lack of education, I just found out where Concord was. It's not too far from Martinez, California.
Oh yeah, that's where my girlfriend lives.
Nice.
It's like right next door.
Yeah. Because I looked up Martinez, California. I'm like, oh, there's Concord.
And I always hear people calling from Oakland, which is like 15 minutes away from me. So
Right.
Like the Bay Area.
Yep.
Good job on that Andrew Jackson intro you did there. I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Had you known about him before?
I had known about him, but the only thing I really, well, let me back up. I didn't know much of him through like high school and college because he wasn't really emphasized.
Right.
And what I had heard about him was only things from the left that would say like,
me too.
He genocided the Native Americans.
Yeah.
And the only
Total
other thing I heard about, yeah, right.
Yeah.
The only other thing I heard about him was that through Dinesh D'Souza, who always pins him up as the father of the Democrat Party.
Right.
And he does that because he wants to do like a black and white of like, Republicans were always good and Democrats were always bad.
Yeah, which I don't really buy.
But when you talked about the relocating of the Native Americans, you said something that was interesting. You said, I don't even really know what had happened and if he was even involved.
Right.
Which is so important, because if he was falsely, blamed for the majority of the so-called genocide of the Native Americans, then I don't know. I don't know much about him, so I don't know if he did it or how that all went down, but you did make a really good point about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't know what went down between the Indians and the Americans, who were making deals, fighting with each other at times, and making treaties. It sounded like the Indians signed a treaty because they couldn't take the heat, so they had to sign a treaty and relocate. Right. So of course, there's going to be force. Weak people are always conquered by stronger people or more forceful people. Like what's happening to whites. We're losing our country because we've been weak and surrendering and cowering and caving and subverted and all that stuff. And we get what we deserve. So we got to stand up or ship out. It's the way of the world. It's reality. And they're pretending that this reality, they're only smearing the whites over this reality. They're never smearing the evil people and the mutual evil that goes on between human beings. They don't tell the whole story.
That's a really good point you make, and especially for whites, too, which kind of makes me want to segue into what I was going to talk about, is my white history hero.
Yeah.
And my white history hero for today is Socrates from ancient Greece.
Uh-huh.
And Socrates is coined the father of philosophy. And originally he was somebody called a sophist, which was basically somebody who could counter-argument very well. They were really good at they were kind of like the Pharisees and Sadducees of the biblical times. They were the very logistical people. But Socrates saw that they were only good at rhetoric and counter-argument. They didn't actually think for themselves.
Yeah.
And kind of like what you were saying with the whites and how we're being conquered, Jesse makes a really interesting point by telling people to think for themselves. That when Jesse Lee Peterson says that, it reminds me of Socrates, because one of Socrates' famous quotes is, "An unexamined life is a life that is not worth living." So basically, if you don't examine your life, you're worthless. And philosophy, is really important. And without Socrates, there would be like no equality. Human beings wouldn't be given the freedom to make their own choices, and every day would just be the same. There would be no freedom of anything because no one would have any strength or the ability to speak up. And philosophy is like a way of thinking about and reflecting on the world and society, and you question the world around us. And that's what Jesse Lee Peterson encourages us to do. And I would encourage a lot of whites to maybe, if they want to start examining yourself, look no further than the ancient Greeks and the father of philosophy, which was Socrates. You could actually learn a lot about looking at your own life and what, because, during those times, Socrates had to deal with lies in, the Athenian democracy. People would lie all the time, and Socrates would go up to people and say, "Are you sure that's true? How do you know that's true?"
Right.
And people would be like, "Well, because I heard it from this person." And he goes, "Yeah, but did you see it? Do you know if it's a fact?" But anyway, the left hates Socrates. They hate philosophy, and they're really upset because the best they could get for philosophy was Karl Marx. That's not even really philosophy. That's just laziness.
Yeah, that's conjecture. They believe that, it's crazy. I mean, it's an atheistic worldview, that Marxism stuff, where I was listening to Bill Lockwood explain about Marxism. And he's talking about how it's based on an assumption about atheism. It's based on an assumption about human nature. It's based on this pretense that society goes from kings to on up to through the so-called dialectic, where they go into capitalism and then ultimately communism is the best ultimate goal. When it's degeneracy that they're pushing. It's crazy.
Right.
It's so destructive.
Yeah, no, it is crazy.
I didn't know that
It's actually funny.
I didn't know that about the left hating Socrates. I had never heard that before.
Yeah, the left actually during the 1800s, I think the 1700s, when the Enlightenment was happening, all these radical ideas started coming out from philosophers such as, I hope I don't butcher these names, like Heidegger and Hegel and Marx.
Yeah.
And it was basically they were looking at the West, and the West had been built from its foundation on logic and reason. And Marx and Hegel and all these other philosophers would talk about how, well, we've lived by these rules from the ancient Greeks for, thousands of years. Why do we have to do that anymore? And they tried their own philosophy, which was Marxism. And yeah, the left scholars, they hate Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Like when I took my classes in college,
is it because they believe in truth, or why is it?
Because we got logic and reason from Socrates and Plato. Plato and Socrates were the first people that said there's reason and logic. It was called ethos, pathos, and logos.
Okay.
And logos was logic, and I think pathos was emotion, and ethos was reason or something like that. But yeah, our foundation of logic and reason from America stems from the ancient Greeks, and that's why the left hates them. They don't want these. They don't like that these Greeks are still having an impact today. They want to change it around. They want to have their philosophers, the Marx and Hegel and all those people, to be worshipped.
It's a shame because think about how far Greece has fallen. Didn't they declare bankruptcy like 10 years ago or so because they turned socialist or something like that? They started listening. They started betraying logic and reason and supporting that Marxism stuff. Crazy.
But I have seen a lot of pro-Greece national marches where there's thousands of people on the street with Greek flags. So I think there's always that silent majority that's always there. It's the people, it's the middle class,
Yeah, maybe they'll have a reawakening. That would be nice.
Hopefully. But anyway, Socrates is my white history hero, and I'll let you go, James.
Appreciate you, Ryan. Take care. That's cool. Man, people they don't really, I'm talking about the left, they really don't believe in truth. They don't believe in consistency. They'll just attack you based on their false principles, but when you see the hypocrisy of it, they don't care. Anyways, let me get Kyle has been on hold forever. Out of Denver, Colorado. Kyle, thanks for holding. What's up?
It's good to talk to you. Yeah, I was just calling. It might not be economical, but if Jesse were to have a tour, have the crew and everybody go through on a tour through the South, I think that now would be the time to have to change hearts and minds and stuff with people.
Oh, give a speaking tour?
Yeah, not only that, but just have it videoed and going and trying different Southern dishes and meeting, go to a black church once, and then go to a predominantly white church. And just,
it would also be nice to visit the monuments, the few remaining monuments while they still stand. Because I don't see this stuff stopping, except that I love that Trump is fighting against that. I'm so happy that he's fighting against that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the way to bridge that racial divide, if there is one, is that people actually saw Southerners, that they're friendly, that there's really not that much. There's not the racism that people think. There might be pockets, where, but like Jesse's always says, it's hate and not racism. So,
right.
And go
I went to Alabama, I want to say, with Jesse Lee Peterson a few years ago. We visited the great Judge Roy Moore when he was the Chief Justice of the Alabama State Supreme Court. and we visited, his hometown, and I think some of the people who went visited Tuskegee Institute, or different places around there, and we noticed that there were young blacks working and having a good attitude, and it was beautiful. It was so nice. It was you see that a little bit here in LA. Every now and then there's like a black guy at an Apple store, working at an Apple store or whatever, and sometimes he's American, not an immigrant. But down there, they just seem like decent people. I mean, of course, there's a whole lot of mess and a whole lot of brainwashing, and horrible cities down there too. But you're right, there is a lot of halfway decent people.
Yeah, if you look, like the white Southerners and majority of it, mainly like the older blacks, but
yeah,
they share a lot in common. Like soul food is basically Southern food.
Right, it's not just black. That's true. Yep.
And the music a lot alike. The old music.
Yeah.
They probably have a lot more in common with white Southerners than they do with any of BLM or Antifa or any of those,
Good point. Yeah, because those people are city folk, but they're worse than city folk. They're like immoral people. They're pushing the LGBT madness. They are mentally ill themselves. They're spiritually dead themselves. The Black Lives Matter, the Antifa people, anybody pushing this phony victimhood is. Including most of their pastors, actually. Yeah, go for it.
I don't know a lot of like the black people outside of the South, but the ones that I were friends with, there's no way they would think like the crazy stuff that you hear like that woman, the angry woman with the short hair, and just they're nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I don't even know.
Are you originally from the South, Kyle?
Yeah, I'm
nice.
From Texas, East Texas.
Cool.
And it's it would be. I think that would do a lot. I mean, the most bang for your buck, the most impact in changing hearts and minds would be just, for Jesse. If he went down there, a lot of people already know who he is. And I bet you they would open their doors to you guys. Especially if he started. Before, before the election.
People love us down there. We were for years. We were on a family's station in Alabama. Or several stations actually in Alabama and Atlanta too. That's where those classic calls from Mel from Atlanta came from. But I appreciate it, Kyle. Thank you, man. Yeah, if people saw the Southerners rather than the caricature of the Southerners from the sleazy America haters and the mainstream media, then that could be a little bit eye-opening, for sure. Thank you, Kyle. Good to hear from you, man.
You bet.
Happy White History Month to you. All right. Before I get to Tony out of Houston, Texas, let me just show you guys this pushing of the false victimhood. The Washington Redskins, they tweeted out a screenshot of a statement about them possibly changing their name. So weak. This kind of reminds me, speaking of this, this Andrew Jackson, oh, he's such a bad guy, he hurt the Indians. I'm not falling for that. This is what the Washington Redskins, that's a National Football League team. They've been around forever, and I think that's Washington, D.C. specifically, right? I don't know my stuff, but I'm presuming that it's D.C. They're based out of Virginia, so that's right there. They said, this is for immediately release, statement from the Washington Redskins. In light of recent events around our country and feedback from our community, the Washington Redskins are announcing the team will undergo a thorough review of the team's name. In light of recent events? What are you talking about? They're referring to this George Floyd riots in response to George Floyd dying of maybe fentanyl overdose, heart attack, and then he had a knee on the neck and the knees on his back. And so maybe that didn't help the situation, but he needed to be arrested because he had allegedly submitted I don't know, all kinds of madness going on. He was drunk in public maybe, I don't know. But they say That's what their so-called recent events are. The riots, you don't appease an angry mob. You don't give them anything. This review formalizes the initial discussions the team has been having with the league in recent weeks. Dan Snyder, owner of the Washington Redskins, stated, "This process allows the team to take into account not only the proud tradition and history of the franchise, but also input from our alumni, the organization sponsors, the NFL, which is a disgraceful organization, the National Football League. They're pro-everything evil. The local community is proud to represent on and off the field." Ron Rivera, head coach of the Washington Redskins, remarked, "This issue of personal importance to me, and I look forward to working closely to make sure we continue the mission of honoring and supporting the Native Americans in our military. We believe this review can and will be conducted with the best interest of all in mind." They shouldn't even, if they really had the best interest of all in mind, they would give it no thought. Leave it as is. It's been that way for ages. Leave it alone. You don't kiss up, you don't appease people who are scapegoating white racism when the black anger is the black's problem. Right? And the Indians' anger and false victimhood is their problem. It's not, and a lot of the Indians like that. They love to be honored. This is not a shame, or it's not a making fun of the Indians. They choose mascots that are honorable, that are cool. What's cooler than a redskin? Especially that Indian chief. If you zoom in, I think isn't there a logo in there? If you zoom in the upper left corner, well, I guess it's kind of blurry, but the upper left corner with the feather and the red man profile almost looks as dignified as George Washington. Doesn't that look cool? How can you claim that falsely that is a mockery of the Indians? Anyways. Oh, hey. Just J. Russ 89 says, "Best football player I've known was Indian." Irony. Yeah, what was that guy's name? But I have heard that too, and I'm blanking on his name. Guys, if you know, famous Indian football player from way back, not that far back, but pretty far back. J. Russ 89 gave diamonds. Mo Betta, stand up, gave a diamond and said, "Liberals destroy the only remaining Indian statues." Interesting. Best football. Oh yeah, he said. I already read that one. Indiana Racer says the NC2A headquarters is in Indianapolis, Indiana. NC2A is like the biggest. Isn't that the biggest sports organization for college? Oh, Asmodor gave a diamond. Rest in peace, Charlie Daniels. Is that true? Charlie Daniels has died? What a man of white history. American. He loved America. I did not. Charlie Daniels. Derek says Knute Rock. One of my favorite world/American figures. Newt. I don't know how to pronounce this. Knute Rock. Can you Google before we go out? Charlie Daniels. He's been on the Jesse Lee Peterson show multiple times. Country Music Hall of Fame member Charlie Daniels dies at 83. Wow. 83 years old after suffering a stroke, according to, I'm just Googling it right now, country music firebrand. And he was a conservative guy. He loved America. He knew that Obama was evil. Born October 28th, 1936 in Wilmington, North Carolina. A great guy. I think we have one of the interviews on the Jesse Lee Peterson YouTube channel. His albums include Simple Man, Fire on the Mountain. Long-haired country boy was one of his songs from 74. Drinking my baby goodbye. 1985. Uneasy Rider. Wow, and he was supposed to still be making appearances in Myrtle Beach, Cincinnati, Hutto, Texas in August, but I guess that's not happening. He died at 83. Rest in peace, Charlie Daniels, great American singer-songwriter. Yeah, I liked him. He played the guitar, he played the fiddle or the violin or whatever you want to call it. Man, that's cool. That's cool that, how cool he was. Not cool that he died, I don't think. It's not cool to be dying. Devil Went Down to Georgia was one of his hits, according to AP. I didn't really learn country music properly until I started listening to the Jesse Lee Peterson show, and even then it was like newer country because Andre that was the Joel before Joel was Joel, meaning he was the board operator. we were playing nice, beautiful music, but that's rest in peace to Charlie Daniels. Nice. Talk about white history. And he wasn't really into the white thing. He loved America. And how white is that, right? Oh, man. I'm going to get to more of your calls, but what a shame, right? Madness taking over and the sane people seemingly dying off, but a lot of you young Zoomers and millennials and bet Hake couldn't sing 2 words. I liked his interviews with the Jesse Lee Peterson show. And we played some of his music because he asked us to share some of it. Very nice music. Right on to him. He played slide guitar, banjo. It's not cool to die, for sure. Anyways, guys, I am going to be taking a second hour, but it's a disgrace that people are pushing false victimhood. Whites, although under attack, we should never fall into that mindset of victimhood or fall into the mindset of, just identifying with whiteness. Yes, you are white, but you're so much more than that. Or less. I was thinking about this. I covered this story yesterday, but in the last couple minutes before I go to break. It wasn't a story. It was an article put out by American Renaissance by a writer named Gregory Hood. He's a millennial guy. I hadn't heard much about him before, but I think I've seen his writing before. And he called for a white spiritual independence, right? Where whites start identifying as whites and unite, join or die. And it was a reference to, it's a throwback to, I think Benjamin Franklin drew up a cartoon that amongst the 13 colonies, join together, unite or die, because the king of England was trying to oppress the Americans. Well, he thinks that, are we still going? Why are you guys pressing F? Hopefully F for just in sadness for Charlie Daniels. Hopefully not for I think I'm online still. Okay. So I was thinking about what, we're still fine. And then I will get to calls and, I don't really have anything to play. Can you come up with something to play, Joel? For the break time? Okay. I think I have whatever. Just come up with something. I forgot. I neglected to prepare a top of the hour song. But many times, Jesse Lee Peterson in church with Jesse Lee Peterson and Sunday services has asked the question, who are you? And a lot of times, like blacks will say, I'm a black, I'm American, I'm whatever, I'm a man, I'm a woman, different things, right? I'm an entrepreneur. And what do we really know? We don't really know anything, right? Yeah, you can see I'm white, Joel's kind of black, stuff like that, but what do we really know about who we are? Jesse Lee Peterson's answer, I'm a living being. And when you're quiet and you pause, that's all you really know, right? That you're a living being. And then from there, you just obey God, right? That's what it's supposed to be. Anyways, that was a really nice lesson, because this identifying with your race on a spiritual level, you can easily be led astray that way. Let's just put it that way, right? In some cases, that might be the part of the being led astray. You got to have your foundation on what you know. Anyways, guys, I got to take a break. I will be back in a few minutes. It is just after 10 a.m. We're going to 11, guys. So I'll be back talking more about pushing false victimhood. I presented to you this stuff. We're going to talk about violent crime, black radicals posturing as though whites are these black nationalists that marched on the Confederate Monument Park, acting like the whites are attacking them when it's really their own hatred attacking them. It's not even their own hatred, it's Satan. Anyways, I'll be back in a few minutes. Have fun, guys. I'll be right back. So, what's up, guys? I am back. This is the beginning of the second hour of the Hake Report. It's Monday, like I said. July 6th, 2020. I will be getting to your calls, 888-775-3773. Very interesting calls about Kaepernick, about about Trump, all kinds of madness. But quickly, let me just tell you guys about something going on. Violent crime surging dramatically in urban cities all over America, according to Drudge, sharing the Economic Collapse blog. It's an article by Michael Snyder. I don't know if he's the main guy who writes for that blog or what, but he says at least 41 people were hit by gunfire in New York City during the holiday weekend. That's 4th of July weekend. I told you about New York City craziness in Hake News at the end of hour 1 of the Jesse Lee Peterson show today. It's crazy. They've had like over 600 shootings in New York City in the first half of the year, first 6 months of the year, and over 100 people killed in those shootings or whatever. Let me see if I can find the exact numbers. 176 murders in the first 6 months of 2020. Crazy. Burglaries up 119%. Car thefts up 48%. And 250 shootings in June. 250 shootings in June alone of 2020. Back June 2019, there were only 97. It's crazy. So you think Black Lives Matter is good for blacks? No, I think not. Because I would venture to say that most of those shootings are committed by blacks against blacks. And in some cases, they aren't black criminals necessarily. There was a story where a young man, 23 years old, and he was protecting his friend, a woman, 39 years old. They were both got shot and killed. According to his mother, he was protecting the older woman, his friend, but she still got shot and killed. They were not linked to drugs or gangs, according to the story, right? So in some cases, these are innocent victims being shot and killed. Black lives don't matter, according to the Black Lives Matter. They don't care. It's pretense. They're throwing away other people's lives and their own. And these people that are in this Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of them, the leadership, the so-called leadership, are throwing their own lives away. They're accepting their homosexuality or transgender or whatever stuff as fine. They're deluded. They don't realize that they're doing a disservice to their own lives and trying to spread it on other people with this female mindset of like pushing your false version of morality, emotional overreaction to the media manipulating you. Suckers. What suckers? And so crime is, it's the Ferguson effect all over again, times 100 or whatever. I say times 100 because it seems like it's worse today. But thank God that Trump is not giving credence to Black Lives Matter, at least not to the extent that Obama did. He calls them a hate symbol, right? The Black Lives Matter slogan that the New York City mayor wants to put in front of Trump Tower. Because the mayor does not care about blacks. He doesn't even care about his own family. Look at how out of control his daughter is. He lets her talk to him like a dog. And that's the worst thing for that poor daughter. She was a cute, pretty little black lady, and then she turned into like a demon-looking person with wild eyes, believing in this phony victimhood. Over the 4th of July weekend, Chicago, at least 67 people were hit by gunfire in the Windy City. That's Chicago, right? I've been there. Nice city, or it used to be. At least 67 people were shot, 13 fatally over the Independence Day weekend in Chicago, according to authorities. 9 of the weekend's victims were minors. 2 children died, officials told Fox 32. That includes a 14-year-old boy who was among 4 people who were killed in the South Side neighborhood Englewood, E-N-G-L-E Wood, on Saturday evening. But instead of blaming the criminals, the Chicago Sun-Times seems to think that cutting funding for police could lead to a better and safer Chicago. No, saner voices such as Dr. John R. Lott Jr., I think he's a junior, PhD, In crimeresearch.org, he's written for The Federalist, New York Post, and many other outlets. He contributes to Fox News even. But he is really a sane, good researcher, objective. Dr. John R. Lott Jr., look him up. He's the author of More Guns, Less Crime, and that's true. And he also says more cops, according to the research, more cops, fewer victims, so-called victims, right? Do people really believe that cutting funding for police could lead to a better and safer Chicago? No. Philadelphia is another major city dealing with a massive increase of violent crime. At the same time, funding for the police is being cut back. Yet, who are they punishing? The Starbucks owners who want to throw out the loiterers. Shootings are up 67% in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, more like brotherly shootings. And it's been like this for ages, ever since I was a kid and before. And I'm not too young. Victims of armed violence are up 29%, Philadelphia. Homicides up 25%. So, of course, it makes sense to defund the Philadelphia PD by $19 million. Andy No tweeted. He's another journalist, pretty objective guy. He exposes Antifa. Law enforcement under attack in Portland, Oregon, and yet crime is out of control. Crazy. Crazy. But you have these black radicals posturing. The Ferguson effect was when they attacked the cops instead of the criminals. In Baltimore, they had the Freddie Gray riots because the drug dealer, he severed his spine. It was kind of a messed up situation. It looked sketchy, so they assumed the cops were giving him a rough ride and racist, right? Even though most of them were black. And it's so ridiculous. Like, white is equivalent to evil for them. That's why you have, like, people stopping any sale of a White History Month t-shirt on their site. It's crazy. It's so backwards. Black radicals posturing, armed blacks, protesters. You saw this on the Jesse Lee Peterson show, or if you didn't, you can check it out. I think it was the third hour. March through the Confederate Memorial Park. Amid all the black violence, they're pretending that the KKK is threatening blacks, when it's their own hatred that's the problem, by the way. Drudge and 11 Alive report, armed group of black nationalists condemns so-called systemic and overt racism, neither of which exist, and marches on Stone Mountain. The mountain is known for its massive... Oh, I have a picture of this. I have a headline, Blacks March or something like that. Black armed protesters. That one's good, but there's another one, Black armed protesters. Then you can see the picture of the mountain. Yeah. Look at that crazy mountain formation that's overlooking the blacks, the armed blacks. I saw in the footage that there were females. Oh, this is a picture from before, from prior to all that mess. These are just regular people. But look at that. If you zoom in on that section, you can see the carved out section. There's Confederate, it's kind of probably blurry because it's such a small portion of the picture. But that carved out section of the rock, huge mountain, there are some Confederate heroes. Robert E. Lee, Andrew Jackson, I think Stonewall Jackson, maybe. Crazy, huh? It may not be as cool as and striking as the Mount Rushmore, but it's pretty cool. And it has this massive Confederate memorial, carving and hiking trails, and also the location of the rebirth of the KKK in 1915. The KKK went over here in 1915 and started up again. Because I guess there was some craziness going on. I don't know. The group of deluded black males and females called themselves the NFAC, not F blanking around coalition. So childish. And, it's such a lack of dignity. And you hear the black man. I may get a clip for you to play tomorrow or this week, maybe. this black guy, I retweeted, I think, on my James Anton Hake Twitter account. This black militia member is talking like he wants Texas, begging for, America to give them land to be on their own, as if that's going to solve their problems. It's so ridiculous. And they're pretending that that the KKK is the threat to the blacks. No. And they have this dumb name, not effing around coalition. Only they put the real F word on there, right? I think. I'm assuming. That's so childish. And this guy's a grown man. He looks like he's in his 50s or maybe even 60s. And he's talking like, oh, he's a real man. But it's so silly. And it's so backwards. They're deluded. They're listening to the ridiculous media or, their own ridiculous people propagandists, right? The people who ignore the actual problems facing blacks and say, oh, look, these horrible whites that are threatening us. There's about 100 to 200 people all dressed in black, carrying ARs and AKs and whatever, rifles. Beautiful carving of Confederate American heroes Jefferson Davis, General Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson on the north face of that mountain. In a video shared online, one of the blacks called the park the birthplace of the Ku Klux Klan. And you hear people referencing the Klan all the time, and nobody else ever hears about the Klan except from the blacks. I'm pointing because Earl from Michigan oftentimes will call, referencing the KKK. Living in an imaginary past, a caricature of the past, a false version of the past. I want the heart of the Ku Klux Klan to hear me no matter where the blank you are, this black guy said. I'm in your house. Where are you at? You made a threat. We don't threaten. And the article fails to address what he's referring to. I guess they just, he's a black man ranting because what threat? What KKK? The article fails to report any threat from any so-called KKK. No one else was being admitted during this demonstration, which is probably wise. There were a number of demonstrations scheduled for the 4th of July in and around, this is the Atlanta area, I guess. Meanwhile, they canceled, did you hear this? So you heard and saw about these armed blacks, men and women. There were women, there were females in this militia. Marching and doing the black power hate symbol, black Nazi symbol, right? Talking about, we're going to stand up to the so-called KKK that's in their imagination. And they allowed these people into the park, disallowed anybody else from joining when they were in there. And then, meanwhile, they canceled the normal 4th of July fireworks show in front of this mountain. There's usually a beautiful fireworks show lighting up that nice carving on the mountain. People come in and sit on the grass, the lawn. And that's due to this COVID social distancing restrictions. They'll impose the restrictions on the rules-abiding whites, but they let these people in there. It's crazy. If they had any courage, these men had any courage, and females, they'd be stopping the murders in urban Atlanta and Baltimore, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago. They're in Atlanta. They're in the Atlanta area. And I don't think that the crime in Atlanta is at a low point. I don't think so. You saw them, you saw that one guy resisting arrest, getting himself shot after shooting the taser at the cop. And then what do the people in charge do? They charge him. They charge the officer for, I don't know. It's crazy. Meanwhile, the poor victim blacks, I have this, and then I will get to calls. Hang tight, guys. I have this funny, you know what? I better get to calls. I've been keeping you guys on hold too long, but I will get back to this crazy story. 7 guys were arrested, right? And 7 white men, but there's much more to this, or there's more to this story, for allegedly harassing a black family on the beach. It happened in Lincoln City, Oregon. And then the whites that you see And then you look at the names of these whites, they're not normal white Americans. It's so funny. But there's this big headline, oh, he's black family harassed. So pathetic. But I got to get to some calls. You guys been patiently on hold for some time. So Tony, first time caller actually, out of Houston, Texas. Tony, I hope you're awake. Tony, thanks for holding. What's up?
Yeah, I'm still here. You was wondering what you should identify yourself with? I heard you talking about that.
Right. I was talking because there's this article, there's this white advocate who's pushing whites to identify with whiteness rather than Christianity or American or any other thing.
Yeah, I always tell people that you are what you believe in. Whatever you believe in, that's who you are. I call myself a Christian that lives in America.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You know, I don't think that you define your own identity. People want to define their own identity, and yours is less insane than like the LGBT people. They think, oh, I'm a gay. That's who I am, right? Mm-hmm. And that's ridiculous. Yours is at least pushing towards what's right, like Christian in America, right?
Yeah, that lives. Like if I was a Christian that lived in Russia, I'd be a Christian Russian.
Right.
Or whatever. Yeah, but I tell people your color is something that goes in a crayon box. And they look at me like I'm like, why you don't call yourself African American? I'm like, I've never been to Africa.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. I date some African women, but I've never been there.
Yeah.
But
you know, I mean, the way that you're raised by your parents, and your parents are in a culture, and cultures are made up of families. It influences how you think and act and all those things. And it's nice, but it's something that we overcome because we don't identify with that above what's right. You want to be for what's right. And even being a Christian, you don't want to fall for the other people calling themselves Christians and saying Christian things, but when in reality they don't actually live as Christians.
But that's not for us to look at. That's for the Father to know about that. That's
right, but you don't want
to. Huh?
But my point is, you don't want to hook your wagon. I'm using a Jesse saying, but you don't want to hook your wagon is like the best. Team up with somebody who has a ulterior motive, unless you just stand with them on what's right, but don't stand with them when they go awry, because yeah. But
I was saying like if my family is the people that believe the same way, not the people that had the same skin color.
That's fair, yeah.
Those are my family. If they say, who's your people? I say the people that believe the same way I believe. It's not because you had the same color as me or we act the same in the same neighborhoods. Whoever believes in the same Jesus that I believe in, those are my family. We all together. We all one family.
Yeah.
Jesus is the head of the family.
Right.
And we're just the body of that.
Yeah, and that's why you have like Jesse Lee Peterson starting White History Month, because when you're of that family, you're for what's right, and it's right to love white people those who are hated.
But
right?
I don't consider them white. I consider them my Christian brother.
Right.
I don't look at their skin. I don't really.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fine.
God bless you, brother, in Jesus' name. Nice talking to you.
Nice to hear from you, Tony. Call again. Take care. That's nice. I didn't get to Maze. Yesterday on Sunday. Did you know I have a Sunday show, guys? Some of you guys may not know. But yes, I am live on Sundays. May's my favorite caller, and I didn't get to her yesterday. I was wearing my White History Month t-shirt because we need to love white people, right? Everybody. White History Month is for everybody. Certainly beneficial to everybody on the whole. Maze out of Dayton, Ohio. How are you doing, Maze?
Hello, James.
Hey, how are you?
I'm just fine.
Right on.
I told you about your T-shirt that you had on yesterday.
Yeah, White History Month.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, guys. We're trying to. I don't know, Nick. Have you had the chance to look into getting it independently printed, or you want me to, or I don't know. Anyways, right now it's unavailable because Teespring rejected it. And then we put it on Spreadshirt, and Spreadshirt rejected it. They hate whites. What a disgrace. What do you think about that, Mace?
Well, that's their business, and they deal with who they want to.
Yeah, that's fair.
They don't want to do your T-shirts, why get upset?
They don't want to love whites. I don't begrudge them that right.
Can I give you the reason why I called about your T-shirt?
Yeah.
Your T-shirt, if you had that T-shirt on and it says White History Month, but without the border around it, could anybody read what it says?
Correct. They could not. No, they could not.
So in other words, that white T-shirt with white history on it needs some help for people to see it, right?
Yeah, because it was white on white.
Yes, and you can't read nothing that it have on there.
Are you saying that white people wouldn't be visible without black people?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What are you saying?
It wouldn't be visible without some help.
All right.
You need some help to get your T-shirt to be seen, right?
Yes, correct.
So then you're supposed to be having White History Month, but I'm not hearing anything about White History Month. I'm hearing about black people, gay people.
Oh, you missed infallible logic, by the way, Maze.
This is for your month. It's your month.
Yeah.
Use it for that and educate people for the history that you've done.
Right, but we also have to point out, when you talk about black history, do you mention white people? Yes, you do.
Yes, I do.
Now.
But I'm saying in Black History Month, we don't put people down. Y'all put people
Lies.
down.
Lies. You put the whole black race down by having Black History Month.
No, how is that?
Because you pretend that blacks need their own month. Oh, we're such victims.
Well, y'all crying and y'all got a month. Nobody complaining.
We're not crying. We're celebrating.
You're crying.
No, we're celebrating.
Anybody, if the Asians got a month, the gays got a month this month too. Y'all sharing it with
No,
them.
that's not. No, that's not. Hey,
It's a gay pride
you
month.
lied. You're a liar, mate.
It is so.
No. The Gay Pride Month was June, not July. Don't get it twisted.
It was June. I thought it was July.
No.
Oh, it's not. Well, if you celebrating your month,
That's an insult.
We want.
And by the way, that's not Gay History Month. Gay History Month is something like October. The gays get 2 months. They get a Pride Month and a History Month. Ridiculous.
You're not having a problem about that?
Yeah, I do. What are you talking about?
Why?
Now, Maze, you claimed that you didn't hear white history. You seem to have missed my entire first half hour of the show.
I'm not talking about your first half. You have a whole month to demonstrate.
Andrew Jackson.
Good and bad.
George Washington. I don't think I've covered George yet.
People. I know about them, so you're not.
I was thinking about you the other day, Maze, and you like that guy, John Brown, that terrorist. John Brown?
You call him what you want to. I love John Brown. But he was a person of the descendants that y'all not.
No, John Brown. I might tell you guys about John Brown. He's a blot.
Do some history on him and tell them about him.
He's a blot upon white history because he committed terrorist attacks. He's kind of like an abortion bomber. Abortion clinic bomber, only worse.
No, say he's just like that shirt that you have, needs some help.
The abortion clinic bombers kill in the name of stopping killing, right? Supposedly. Oh, they're killing babies, so let me kill people with the abortion clinic, right? Unless they bomb the clinic before when everybody's gone, I don't know. But kill to prevent killings. But John Brown killed to free slaves, but the slaves weren't getting killed. The slaves were kept alive to be able to work, right? And so he was a terrorist, evil person. Wasn't he hanged? He was a criminal and a terrorist. Typical for a black who hates whites to side with a white criminal. It reminds me of the blacks who embrace, who's that Canadian singer guy? He has a really nice childish voice from back in the day. Justin Bieber. The blacks embrace Justin Bieber because he embraces degenerate culture. And they embrace him. What a shame. And that's how you are with John Brown. You embrace a criminal terrorist. Anyways, go on.
Oh, as I'm saying, so how do you solve black-on-black crime when you can't solve your own crime?
We can.
And the difference between
hey. How do you solve? Hold on. How do you solve so-called white racism when you can't even stop black-on-white crime and black-on-black crime? Now.
I'm saying, what's your solution? What is your solution?
What's your solution to black hate when you're trying to solve white hate, but you can't even solve black hate?
No, you're the wrong. I mean, y'all try to solve it.
I got her to be like,
no, I'm going to tell you how to solve it.
That's the first time I've heard Maze trip up.
I didn't trip. I'm giving you an answer.
All right.
The answer that you can't give.
Okay.
You saw black on black crime, black on white crime, white on black crime by getting rid of the haters, and then you take some of the guns and stuff that like all enough and put into the neighborhood. Get them back and take them with you, just like you brought them in there, and take them out. Because we don't know where these people getting these guns from, the criminals. But I don't look at that as the same as cops.
Maze, that's such a no. That's such a female. Wait, that's such a no. Here, let me respond to your solution. Right, your solution is.
What's yours?
Wait. Let me describe your solution and shoot it down. Okay, your solution is get rid of the criminals. I don't know how. I don't know what she means by that. And then get rid of the guns. That is such a female solution.
That's not what I said.
Well, it's what you said.
No, I did not. I said the guns that was put in the neighborhoods, take them back. Like I don't know if help put them in there. Why don't y'all just go in there and help take them out of the neighborhood?
How is that different from what I said? Get rid of the guns.
No, that's not get rid of the guns. Because I'm not
get rid of the guns in those neighborhoods.
I'm not saying take everybody's gun. That's the ones that was put in there.
Okay.
Keep them out of the neighborhood.
All right. Whatever. Maze.
Wouldn't you think that would work?
No, it would not work because that's not solving the evil of the hearts, and the evil of the lack of families. You listen to the Jesse Lee Peterson show for some reason, right? And you must agree with Jesse Lee Peterson about the importance of families and men and raising people right. You got to raise the blacks right, and you got to stop.
And what they got to do for you?
Hold on, and you got to stop caving to the crazy angry mob. Falsely justifying them by changing names of things and taking down monuments when that has nothing to do with their problem.
Really?
Yeah.
That's what you think. But as I was saying,
no, it's true.
Why are they taking ropes? Why they stop selling ropes in Lowe's and Home Depot?
Because they're using ropes to tear down statues, probably.
No, that's not why they said it was.
Because of lynchings, maybe? I don't know. Suicides?
Yeah, suicide. That's people committing suicide by hanging.
Anyways.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? Do you think that need to be looked into?
Yeah, they should keep selling ropes and guns.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the good people need guns.
How do you clean up your community now?
By promoting the end of anger and fear among the whites and promoting a return to morality. I love that whites are and Hispanics and everybody stopping the sex out of wedlock. They are getting over the pot, or at least becoming aware that this pot stuff is not good for them, and drinking and all that stuff is not necessarily good for them. Forgiving the mothers and returning to the fathers, that stuff is so great. It's like perfect for the whites and the blacks and everybody.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think you thought that way. I thought you only think black people needed to do that. I'm glad it came out of your mouth.
That's because you be profiling.
You think that your people should do the same thing that black people are doing.
Yeah, the whites need to.
History Month, I'm glad you said that.
The solution for the whites is the same as the solution for the blacks.
I'm so happy that you said that.
Yeah.
Would you tell your partner the same thing?
Partner? What do you mean by that?
Your boss.
My boss?
Yes. Maybe it'll click too. If you travel the world and you've seen the world and you see the different...
But you're acting... Hold on, Maze. You act like you don't even...
With some of the things
I'm going to just debunk your statement and then I got to go. You're pretending that Jesse Lee Peterson doesn't preach the same thing to the whites that he does to the blacks. He does. Whites get over fear and anger. Blacks get over anger and fear. Same thing. Anyways, Maze, nice talking with you. You have a good day.
Yeah, but James, you need to tell each other the truth, and maybe y'all feel better about yourself each day, and y'all can sleep with a
Do you do the silent prayer?
Not an aching heart. What?
Do you do the silent prayer?
I told you I meditated, and it's not a silent prayer because that's not nothing God put down here for me in the Bible or nowhere. So no, not that silent prayer.
All right.
I can meditate. Anybody can do that.
All right.
So we're going to call it your...
This is what meditation gets you guys. Take care, Maze. Have a good one. You have a good day. All right. Anyways. Yeah, there was this guy who was either a fast Indian runner or a very talented Indian football player. And he had like a normal name, and then he had either a normal first name and an American or Indian last name, or the other way around. I haven't seen it. I haven't really been watching the chat too closely, but maybe I'll figure it out later. Anyways, this is not Engine History Month. Mo Betta Stand-Up says, year 2030, USA sports mascots equal only Epsteins, Goldman, Sachs, Shekels, etc. I hope not, but, we'll see. We'll take it as it comes, right? And handle it. JRuss89, rest in peace, Charlie. Country boy can survive N. Philosopher with a diamond. Mo Betta Stand-Up gave a diamond and said, J-Word owned German TV shows non-stop clips of USA KKK. Oh, so that's why these Germans call in with these insane ideas about America and racism, and somebody called from Germany asking Jesse Lee Peterson what he would do if he called him the N-word. And he used the actual N-word, and he's crazy. Yeah, crazy. Mo Betta Stand-Up gave a diamond and said, as if there is still a KKK dominance in the USA. And Mo Betta Stand-Up says, most U.S. whites are pretending that they rappers right now. And he says, I hear BLM managers, Jewish, more than KKK and Nazis. Yeah? Oh, BLM, I fear, he says, fear them more than the KKK or Nazis. Yeah, I mean, these people are marginalized. The KKK and the so-called Nazis, they're marginalized. And the BLM people are evil, every bit as evil, and they're put on a pedestal. It's a disgrace, really. Mo Betta Stand-Up says, today JLP had a black collar with a Jewish handler. Okay. I'm not familiar, but thank you. As Medora gave a diamond and said, Robert E. Lee captured and hanged John Brown. Right on to Robert E. Lee. Hero. That's good. An honorable man. Unlike John Brown. John Brown seemed to be a misguided man. Yeah, so many liberal radical activists have that same evil spirit. Indiana Racer says, if blacks built the country, why not one city block? Yeah. Mo Betta Stand-Up gave a diamond and said, Indiana Racer, Mogadishu has about 5,000 blocks. Interesting. Mogadishu. I'm not really familiar with Mogadishu. But anyways. Okay, so I got to tell you guys this story. This is so funny to me, right? Because it has to do with foreigners, and foreigners don't care. They don't have this fake guilt so much. They laugh and joke. You know how teenage whites, later on in life, they get in trouble, they apologize and grovel for saying the N-word and using off-color jokes and Nazi salutes and stuff like that. Because, younger people are not traumatized by the brainwashing that, we need to be all melodramatic about all of these, supposed villains of yore, right? And in some cases, maybe they were real villains. But we don't need to be all pious and sorry about it. 7 men were arrested after allegedly harassing a black family on the beach. And I don't support them acting like this, but I'm just saying I like how they don't have any false guilt about stupid stuff. They're just being wild, normal people. Drudge reports and The Hill. Yes, it made national news. The Hill reported this. Ridiculous. Far left outlet. I'm rolling my eyes. In Lincoln City, Oregon, local police posted on Facebook on Sunday that these men who were allegedly harassing a black family were arrested, but not for harassing the black family, by the way. After their group taunted a black family the night before by yelling racial slurs at them, insulting them, using Nazi salutes towards them at a nearby local beach. There was a call to police for illegal fireworks. And then I will get back to calls. Hang tight, guys. And a highly intoxicated group surrounded the responding officers. So these are drunk, childish, overgrown, boyish guys, right? Cops claim They formed a line between the group of white persons and the black family, allowing the black family to safely leave the beach and return to their room. Fair enough. You know, if they're taunting the black family, get on out of here. Protect yourselves, right? During this time, several of the group of white persons continued to taunt the officers, trying to challenge them to a fight. Other members from the group of white persons then began shooting off multiple large aerial illegal fireworks in front of the officers, according to this department. They posted this on Facebook. After several more officers arrived on scene, they moved in the confrontational and highly intoxicated group and began placing them under arrest for a variety of criminal charges. And Joel is showing you their mugshots right now. The 7 men between the ages of 22 and 45 were arrested and charged. They're like, you know, this is kind of what's happening to whites. A little bit. With riot, interfering with police, disorderly conduct 2, harassment, possession of illegal fireworks, and offensive littering. So why the headline of Nazi salutes? This is America, right? You have the freedom of speech, even if you're being kind of vindictive, I guess. 6 of those men have been released and were issued citations due to local coronavirus restrictions given the ongoing pandemic. And I have these pictures of these white guys, so-called white guys, right? They're not white Americans. If they're Americans, they're based on their names. I wouldn't call these American last names, right? Not the typical ones. Here's the punchline. Names include Gennady, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Kachankov, age 30. Anatoly Kachankov, age 28. Yuri Kachankov, age 30. Oleg Saranchuk, age 45. Ruslan Tkachenko, age 22. Andrei Zaystev, age 28. And an unnamed guy with his eyes closed who refused, in the mugshot, looks drunk out of his mind, who refused to identify. These are not white Americans doing this to blacks. They're just wild, funny, boisterous, thuggish, I guess, foreigners. Supposedly from Clark County, Washington, coming in over the 4th of July weekend to party on a beach in Oregon and messing around with the cops and the blacks and whoever. And they're doing the Nazi salutes to the blacks as if the blacks got genocided by the Nazis. Were there any blacks who got holocausted? You know, when Germany, you know, the Nazis started trying to take over Europe, right? That's what I hear. Were there blacks in that area? A lot? I don't know. So the Nazi salute is not a threat against the blacks necessarily, except that they wanted to come into America, I guess. But I don't know, to me it's just a funny story, but people are falling all over themselves when their crimes were actually being drunk in public. Well, they didn't say that, but interfering with the police, throwing off illegal fireworks, harassment, I guess that counts, right? That's harassment. Disorderly conduct, offensive littering. Normal whites don't litter. At least not, well, I mean, the younger ones started to. But, you know, I've picked up more litter than I've littered. Of my own volition. It wasn't like I was forced to. It wasn't like I was in detention or ICE. There was this thing called ICE when I was in 7th and 8th grade, where it's worse than detention. Detention is where you have to sit in the classroom after school hours and just do homework and be quiet because you're acting out of control kid. And then there's ICE where you have to go and you're a real thug and you have to go pick up trash and carry a trash bag. Different from immigration and customs enforcement. But, you know, like this littering and all this stuff, it's just this pretense, this ongoing headline grabbing, oh, whites harassing blacks. This is a widespread problem. No, it's really the other way around on the whole. If there's any harassment going between the races, it's the other way around. There's so much more aggression against whites from blacks. Even when it's not criminal, there's aggression. There is also criminal aggression. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. To me, it was so funny. These names, Kachankov. And I wish I recognized, what is that, Ukrainian or Russian or something. And they look like they're like MMA guys, or maybe everybody from those countries looks tough, but they look like they're tough guys, kind of. It's so funny. Anyways, I got to get to some calls. Anna out of Austin, Texas. Anna, how are you? Thanks for holding. What's up?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Doing fine.
Good. I just want to let you know I'm a huge fan, and I listen to you guys quite a bit, and I've called your show, or I've called Jesse a couple times. But I just wanted your opinion on the Black Anthem the NFL will supposedly be playing during the first week of the football season.
I've heard about this, and I think the anthem, if I'm not mistaken, it is lift every voice and sing, the Black national anthem, before every first game of the next season. And that's according to, I read you guys, a Declaration of White Spiritual Independence, which lists a lot of true statements about what's going on with this kissing up to blacks and false attacks on whites. I think it's really ridiculous. You asked me what I think. It's silly. It's not... You know, this guy in American Renaissance, he wrote this article, Gregory Hood, and he made a true statement. He said that they're going to be wanting their own, I'm referring to blacks and other cultures, they don't want to unite as Americans. They don't have any love for whites. They hate whites. They hate this imaginary white supremacy, which in reality, they just mean they hate America and hate whites. And they really hate their own people, too. They're going to want their own anthems and all that madness. And he's right. They are going to want that.
Yeah,
what do you say?
I was just saying that I think it's ridiculous as well. And I was kind of annoyed because my brother, he just graduated from high school. So
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm going to watch him graduate. But then, of course, all the kids were kneeling.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. And
right.
There was, the valedictorian. She was, preaching about systemic racism and all that crap. And I'm just it almost seems like people who are conservative or who don't agree with them, it's like we're subject to listen to them and what they have to say. And for me, I personally really don't care. I just want to listen or watch my brother graduate.
Yeah.
And so they're bringing into everything else. So I'm just thinking, how else are we supposed to really, I guess, deal with it? Because it's like we have to listen to it. It's almost like we don't have a choice other than to listen to.
Yeah, the madness. It's so evil.
Yeah, so I guess.
I was going to ask, did you boo when she was doing that?
No, actually, I was watching online. I couldn't go because they're practicing the
social distancing stuff.
Yeah, we could only have 2 people, but. Just watching on my phone, I was really aggravated. But,
yeah. What was the valedictorian? Was she a white woman, young lady, or Hispanic or black, or couldn't tell?
She was Hispanic. She called herself a minority.
Yeah. It's so disgraceful how they're brainwashing. Be patient with these people. They're brainwashed. They don't know better. They're taught this stuff in the school, in the media, in social media, and Amazon and YouTube and Lyft, which is a ride-sharing app, all kinds of different places. They're immersed in a world. You know how Jesse Lee Peterson has said, show love to the blacks by telling them the truth and be patient without anger, right? And that is true. A lot of whites can lose patience with the blacks because they're so deluded. The things that they believe are so crazy, but they're made to feel justified in their false beliefs. So be patient with them, and that patience and mixed with the truth can really wake up the few who are supposed to wake up, right? So because they're not getting truth anywhere, not from their parents. There are many parents who are brainwashing the kids. I walk around the neighborhoods around here, and they have Black Lives Matter signs. In this house, science is real, and blah, blah, blah. Women have rights, or stuff like that. Crazy, radical imitation of truth, imitation of morals that they're taught and raised in. So Yeah, just be patient
Well,
with them because it's evil.
I was just gonna say because, well, I'm Hispanic, and I guess like a lot of my family, I have like a ton of cousins like I don't even know, and so basically all of them are liberal. So
Right.
it's a little intimidating. And then on top of that, I think people, I guess they might assume when they look at me that I might think the way that they do, but inside I'm like, no, I
Yep.
don't agree at all. So I really don't know how else to really, I guess, kind of stand apart from them. So it's because, I don't know. And also another thing, I called the show because I was saying that I actually was trying to audition to be an NFL cheerleader, but now it's making me nervous because I'm worried that they're going to put it on the cheerleaders to basically, I don't know if they're even having people pledge for it, but like pledge for this new anthem, if that makes sense. Like that makes me a little.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't
Right.
want to do that. So. It's
Well,
just
I
kind
mean,
of, it gets
you can
in the way of what I want to do.
Listen, there are sometimes more important things than like not doing that. Because say you're good at that, you're talented, you can get accepted. You could play the game. When I say play the game, play along, and be a light in there. Who knows? There are people who work for Yahoo. There's this one guy who works for Yahoo. I heard. Maybe I shouldn't say this. And he is he's a fan of Jesse Lee Peterson, or at least he said so.
Oh, really?
And they came to Bond, did this feature on Jesse Lee Peterson in his own words, and put it out. And it's going viral even right now, even though they put it out in 2018, talking about the solution of getting over anger and the Democrat plantation is evil and stuff like that. And so there's a light in the far left liberal Yahoo News, which is generally the enemy of America and of truth. So maybe you could be a light in there. So I don't know. Make sure that you do what Jesse urges everybody to do. I don't know if you're subscribed to Bond Rebuilding the Man YouTube channel, but I just searched.
Yes, I am.
I searched standalone inside the Bond Rebuilding the Man YouTube channel because we put out a clip last week about standing alone against the crowd. Sometimes you have to stand alone. In fact, most of the time when you're standing for what's right, you have to stand alone. Trump did it.
Yeah.
Trump is doing it. Jesse Lee Peterson does it. And he also says, and it's true, don't be afraid of Satan's children. Black Lives Matter, etc. So
Yeah,
stay with.
Well, I was just gonna say that even playing into it still feels like people are gonna look at me a certain way because
Right.
I don't know what they're gonna like. To me, if you're pledging to that new anthem, or whatever, to me that's a way of turning your back on the country. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
but you
the
want
thing
you
is,
want
if I
to. It might be, but it might. You may not. It may be that you're not supposed to do it, right? But maybe you are supposed to do it and just play along. Like a lot of people make their money and they're playing the game, pretending to not totally be outspoken with the truth. They're picking their battles. And then meanwhile, along the way, they're being honest where it counts. Because these big things are every bit as important as those things, or the small things in how you live your life. These big political issues, how you live your life is every bit as important. It's key. You have to be perfect in every area. And so sometimes since the world is evil and you have to do these things to function in the world and to have a job, there's some times when you don't have to necessarily say, oh, this is an evil thing. You can just keep it to yourself and know that it's evil.
Okay.
So I'm not telling you one way or the other which way to go, but I'm just saying Jesse Lee Peterson says to do the silent prayer, and you need to have insight to know when to stand, when to sit, because there's a time for everything, a time to speak and a time to be quiet, and a time to be very bold and a time to bide your time. So.
Okay, because I was gonna say it's not my point to like be that person that's like Boulder or whatever, but I get what you're saying. Like,
well, I mean,
think
even there's a time to be to stand on principle and avoid baking the gay cake, and there's a time to just bake the gay cake and use the money and use it for good or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not even saying you have to be bold. I'm saying there's a time to join the cheerleaders and a time not to. So it's up to between you and God, right? To know.
Yeah.
Right on, Anna. Nice to hear from you.
Thank you. You as well. I was just saying because I think it would be like breaking the rules anyway if I were to do something crazy. So that's not my motive at all. But I guess just the whole playing the game thing is really a little uncomfortable for me because that's not what I really do. But that's all I want to say. I appreciate it.
Do you do the Jesse Lee Peterson's silent prayer?
I just started doing that, but I just started doing it.
Okay.
I'm not really.
Well, stay with that, and then you won't live in confusion, and you'll know for yourself what's right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Nice to hear from you. Take care.
Yeah, have a good day.
Good luck.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Europe was patient, says Mo Betta stand-up. Paris equals Concord. Matter of 2 years before they asked USA and Brexit to save them again. Interesting. You talk about present day times? Jeff Edward. Man, it's getting warm in here, huh? Jeff Edward. I think Joel might... Well, I don't think he's sleeping. I'm just kidding around. Jeff Edward gave a diamond and said, "Hello, mate." Thank you, man. Yeah, thank you for the Ninja Genie, by the way, Mo Betta stand-up. Noah's Arkansas says, "Great show. 2 hours flies by. Amazing. And congratulations to Take Care Business Bear, Dark Side of the Bear, What? Fanada Ladies, Based AF, America First." Noah's Arkansas. And thank you to JRuss89, Indiana Racer. Almost forgot your name. Mo Betta stand-up for the support, along with Philosopher Ludwig von Neon, Dr. Groiperstein, nice, Asmodor, Hot Computer Smell, High Impact Flicks, Noah's Arkansas. Thank you guys. Appreciate all of the support. And thank you, too, to the people on YouTube. Marcus Jones' mama's in the chat. Whoa, tell Marcus to unblock his mama. Angry face. Hey, what's up, Louie? 2 hours of Hake. How do you like it? thehakereport.com/show for my show stuff. thehakereport.com/blog for the blog write-ups on these shows. Each show I do a little write-up. And Hake News within the Hake Report website. Hake News for the my reading of the news on the Jesse Lee Peterson show at the end of the first and second hour. Hope you guys enjoy that. Make sure to catch Church with Jesse Lee Peterson. It was excellent yesterday, and we will be putting out a Sunday service premiere on Wednesdays. We typically do it Wednesday evening around 5 p.m. my time. That's when we typically have done it. That's our tradition now. So it's really cool. All right, guys. Hope to see you tomorrow. Rest in peace, Charlie Daniels. Happy White History Month. American hero, a real American hero, Andrew Jackson. Don't let the liberals tell you otherwise. You don't have to believe their mess. They're not a good judge of character. That's to say the least. All right, guys. Take care.